I put on a brave face as we rode to that farm. I agreed to learn how to properly use the spear that was strapped to my back, a common weapon from my homeland, but uncommon to me. Why teach a woman to fight if she was never going to do so? War was for men, a thing I was never expected to participate in. My master, on the other hand, had a different plan entirely. Octai appeared to be happy, a grin firmly planted across his face. I, on the other hand, was not so excited. I was scared. The task was nothing like the others before. Previously, I was given the opportunity to study with the Atlan monks. That was different. It was an Atlan, and I was able to return to Ilse each night, making it worth the harsh words and occasional lash I received for my failures. She was always there to provide reassurance that I was learning far more than even she could have imagined. Finally, when Octai would return from whatever mission he was given by the Divine Khan, he would joyfully praise my progress. He'd even quiz me on what knowledge I gathered about the history and ancient Odian laws when we'd have the chance to eat together. This task, on the other hand, would require me to remain at this farm for months at a time, away from those I loved, those I trusted. I made certain to hide my shaking hands from his sight. He need not know of the twisting terror that pounded in my stomach and chest. Not that it would matter to him. I was given a task by my master, and he'd expect me to fulfill it. It was a plan to undermine the idea that foreigners were less than Odian by placing me on display, a foreign girl gaining her freedom through the citizen tests and the defense of Ode. It was a nearly impossible task. Usually, only one of these actions was sufficient for a person to gain their freedom, but to do both was unheard of. I would be the first ever to accomplish such a task. That is, if I succeeded, of course. We dismounted, making sure to tie our horses to a nearby tree close to the old, pockmarked, grayed wooden fence's gate.
Your freedom can only be gained in a few ways,
Octai said, gently pushing me toward the gate. With a squeal, the small gate that led to a field of newly planted potatoes opened. I know, master. I had not forgotten the value of both knowledge of the law and conquest for the protection of Ode.
Not just conquest,
He added as he pulled the gate closed.
You have to become a weapon of the three gods, become a symbol of their divine power through your submission to them. Conquest is simply the outward expression of the power they've given you.
I understand, master. We stopped in the middle of the field, Octai stepping on the green-leafed children of the man called Changai. My feet sought to avoid the green. Instead, I stepped on the hay lining the rows. As the child of a farmer and a merchant, it did not sit well with me to rudely step on another's crops.
Good. Changai isn't just a man of great skill. He's also a man of even greater honor. He served his master and the Divine Khan with the greatest of competency.
Octai turned back towards the gate.
He and I have fought together on many of my earliest missions, and regardless of the opposition, with him at my side, we were assured victory.
Octai sighed.
Although I am unsure why he isn't here yet.
Again, he looks back towards the gate and his horse.
Still, if he said he would be here, he will certainly be.
Octai said, trying to peek around the house in the distance before us.
You must only find the will to be a vessel for his vast knowledge.
It seemed as if Octai didn't actually want to see Changai. He glanced back at his horse too many times. As per Octai himself, a man cannot take up the battle set before him if his mind is occupied by the path home. Octai held my shoulder and turned me to face him.
Do you have faith?
Yes, master.
Why would I even need to ask you that?
He bent over slightly, hands holding my shoulders as he glared into my eyes.
Now, this task would certainly be difficult, but do not despair. You've proven yourself very capable of learning many things, despite being a girl. Now, this task would certainly be difficult, but do not despair. You've used your mind to conquer the monks, their whips, and their scrolls. So now you must do the same with your spear. Just remember to allow your faith to sustain you during the most physical aspects of training. Yes? And remember to trust in 3 and listen intently, and I will see you in a month's time. Ilse and I will be happy to see how far you've progressed.
With that, he left me there, in a large plot of land filled with the pale green leaves of the potato plants that blanketed the ground. The great Odian abbot, Octai, Liu, abandoned me. He left me waiting for a man I did not know. Unbeknownst to him, being alone with any man other than him, Bettis, and Mergens terrified me. The last time I was alone with unfamiliar warriors, I never told Octai what occurred. I never wanted him to know my shame. I did not imagine he would think well of me if he knew. The sky seemed endless here. In the distance, north, mountains, and the south was nothing more than an expanse of grasses and shrubs. Only the west was occupied by a small town, a single large building jutting up from the center. That must be where Changai's master resides. To the east, I could see Octai's horse leaving a cloud of dust as he fled back to Atlan. He couldn't have been more than a few horse strides away before my mind churned. It prepared fantasies that would excuse my return to Atlan far sooner than a month. I would walk into his meeting room and proclaim myself abandoned by this old warrior. He would counter, and I would do the same. Ultimately, he would embrace me and let me know all was fine and I was not to blame. How intricate my imagination was. Sadly, that fantasy crumbled to dust when the old warrior emerged from behind the simple wooden building that inhabited this plot of land. He did not look like the kind of man who would take kindly to disobedience. I thought of the abbots in the Hall of Scrolls, who had a similar look. Those men would beat me if I did not succeed in a task or remembered the exact wording they recited from the crumbling scrolls they read from. Apparently, that was the way of men who looked so harsh. Changai's eyes became fixed on the spear strapped to my back as he approached.
Lovely spear,
He said, jutting his bottom lip and chin towards the spear's sharp tip. Thank you, I replied, tears preparing to fall from my eyes as they stared into the dirt. I was too frightened to dare challenge him by boldly looking him in the eyes. I wanted to shrink back and move away from him as he stood silent before me. Nervously, I glanced up at his hands, hard and veiny, clearly strong. The idea of his touch or his strike, or both, shook me to my core.
young lady, I will need you to look me in my eyes from this point forward. I am not your better.
This Changai did not speak as a violent man would. Despite his gruff voice, I did not feel threatened. On the contrary, there was a kindness to it that reminded me of my father. Thus I nodded and tore my eyes from his furred boots for them to meet his. He smiled, his brown eyes gleaming in the late afternoon sun.
There we are.
He squinted, leaned his head back, and took in the fullness of my face.
Where are you from? The Southlands?
Yes, master.
I told you, I'm not your better. My name is Chengai. Use that when you address me.
Yes, Changai.
Were you old enough to remember the name of your former land?
Yes. I was from Jwala.
Jwala, I've not heard of that land, but that is no surprise. I was often sent east to subdue the Pale people from those lands, so it was rare that I'd head south and learn about its people.
He sighed.
Those times of endless conflict were not the most joyous periods of my life. Of that I can assure you.
We stood there for a moment or two in silence. I thought to turn away and break our gaze, but did not. His eyes were warmer than you'd think for a man whose face and body told stories of war and violence.
And you are here to learn the spear, eh? What would you do with that weapon? Kill more people for the glory of Odd? Come, it's fine to speak.
I took a deep breath. Oktai wishes me to be free, so I will do all I can to accomplish that goal.
Oktai wishes this, eh? He and I have done much to enslave. I scant remember him doing anything other than the will of the Khan.
He grinned, lips tight.
It is fine, young lady. You can well wipe that look of concern from your face. I will never ask you to speak against your master.
Silence again. He was quite correct. I was not going to speak against Oktai.
I am betting the taste of dust must be filling your mouth after such a long ride from Atlan. Come, the sun is falling, and I have a hot pot of stew simmering for us.
He smiled, turned, and walked towards the wooden shack. He did not push, pull, or shove me. He did nothing save using his words to invite me into his home and to eat a hot meal. So I followed. Something about him told me I need not worry about my safety, although what it was that caused my fear to fade, I couldn't tell you exactly. He was certainly nothing like my father, save for the hint of kindness in his words, but I guess that alone was sufficient for me to trust. I was even happier to learn my trust was well-founded. By the end of the night, we both laughed and smiled as we chatted. Stories of Ilse, stories of Oktai and Mergens, and even more tales of his many early failures as a warrior filled the fur-lined wall of his wooden home. Finally, as we both stretched wide our mouths with yawns that brought tears to our eyes, he promised the next day would begin our journey of hard work, sweat, and tears, all things I was well accustomed to. By the time sleep took me, fear was nowhere to be found. The months that followed were indeed exactly as Chengai promised. His age belied his strength and stamina. For hours we'd work on forms and movements, strikes and parries. Exhaustion was not new to me, but this was beyond my previous experiences. Through it all, his kindness was only tempered by his strict teachings. It was not long before I wanted to make him proud as often as I could. His smiles became the praise I sought, and those were not given easily. I never thought my short, blessed steel spear was very heavy, considering the fact that blessed metal was not only stronger, but also much lighter than steel forged without magic. I often walked about Atlan, running errands all throughout the city, the weapon strapped to my back, and thought little of its weight. As a child, I was often tasked with transporting bundies of bamboo, wood, harvested vegetables, and even firewood from the fields to the homes of various family members. Such was life in a farming village. Therefore, carrying weights that others who never experienced life on a farm would deem excessive was never much of a problem for me. Whenever I returned to Atlan, Ilse would comment on my muscle development. From her eyes, I was being worked too hard, my body looking more masculine than it should. At the comment, I would always smile and tell her, "It is what is needed," words Chengai would say to me whenever I'd complain about being sore. My being a female never seemed to factor in his mind, something I've always appreciated about him, although I sometimes wondered if he would have rubbed away the soreness in my arms with that foul-smelling salve if I were a man. I doubt that would have been the case. After the sun rose and now sat at the top of the sky, and I had been thrusting this spear forward countless times, it felt far from blessed. Its weight felt so heavy I wondered if my arm would separate from the place it was bound to my body and flop on the ground like a dying fish. But again, this was not strange to me. The many months of Chengai's training I've already endured began and ended with such intense work. Surprisingly, I learned to enjoy my growing strength from such strenuous activity.
Again.
He yelled, each time striking the stacked hay with the blunt end of a wooden spear. I couldn't stop the tears that day. He extended the morning's training far longer than any previous day. I was in quite a bit of pain.
Do you think your tears would stop men from capturing you, raping you? No, only your spear will halt them. Only their deaths would give them pause. Now strike again.
I thrust forward as his words give rise to thoughts. Memories of the 2 men who abused me. Another thrust, and I wished I had my spear back then. I wished I were not stabbing a bundle of hay.
Good. Well done, Yanel. There are battles that persist far longer than expected. A few more, and we will call it a day. Come, give it your all.
Thrust. I wished I could have fought them off, stopped them from killing my family. Thrust.
Good job, Yanel. Come now, let's eat.
I wished I were strong back then, not so compliant, not so afraid. Thrust. I wanted to hurt them more than anything I ever wanted in this world. Thrust.
Yonel, you can stop.
I wanted them dead. Thrust. I was a coward. I was weak. I couldn't stop them from hurting me over and over again whenever the sun went to rest and the darkness claimed the sky. Thrust.
Yonel, enough.
I felt Chengai grab the hilt of my spear with one hand and the other grasped my shoulder.
Have you gone deaf? I said enough.
He pulled on the spear. I did not release it.
Yonel, let go.
My arm refused.
Yonel, let go.
From the edges of my vision, I saw him tilt downward to take in the fullness of my face.
What's wrong, Yonel? Hey, Yonel, what's wrong? I'm sorry if I pushed you too hard. I simply want you to be safe on the battlefield.
It was here that I screamed. With all of the rage and pain in my heart, I screamed from the very bottom of my soul. It did not stop until I had fallen to my knees, my hand on my face holding my head from falling into my chest as the other clutched my spear so tight my knuckles turned white. My throat hurt, my hands shook. Tears filled my hand, slid down my wrist and forearm. Even with all of this, I could not rid myself of the lingering pain that gripped my heart. The pain wouldn't flee from me. It sat in my chest, nestled right next to the fear of all that occurred those years ago could happen once again. With his knee, Chengai pushed my spear aside and took me into his arms. He smelled of moist soil and the stew he made every morning. His thin arms were strong but also gentle. He squeezed me, harder than he should have, but it still gave me a sense that I was not alone. He was here with me, and I welcomed it with all my broken heart.
No one will ever hurt you while you wield that spear. We will make certain of this,
He said with a shake.
Do you understand? I will make certain to teach you all that I am capable of teaching you.
I thought of telling him, informing him of my shame.
You do not have to tell me what happened. I will not ask. Just know that I will teach you all that is within me, all that remains of me after so much war. Please, please accept this part of me.
I nodded.
Good, good. You are important to me. Did you know this? You are important. I have come to care much for you these past few months. You are a good person, and I wish to make strong a good person. For once in my life, I want to make a good person strong.
I did not think of myself as a good person. I thought of myself as a coward. But it was pleasing to hear someone say otherwise. So I decided there, in the dirt, wrapped in the arms of this old warrior, that I was going to work harder than I'd ever worked before. I would learn everything I could possibly learn from him. I would become a master of the spear, as Chengai was. I was going to learn to be brave and strong, even if it kills me.